Greetings, Game Changers. This is Classic Games Redefined. My name is Rich, and I'm going to take a brief look at the RetroBit Generations here. I'm running Infinite Looper here, and there was one question I was wondering about, and it comes out of the RetroBit Generations had me raising this here. I want to give some impression. One thing besides the system is relatively small. It's roughly on the size of the Wii U. Not the Wii U, sorry, I mean the Nintendo Classic. It's small, doesn't take up a lot of space. So anyhow, what I'm doing here is this is part of an experiment also. Running Infinite Looper, just running some in the background so you can see the system in action here. And just as something else to do. And hopefully it also run as a loop as needed. So anyhow, what I wanted to discuss with you here regarding this here is how important is pixel perfect emulation for a system? How important is it that a system ends up capturing everything perfectly? Part of the reason why I asked this here, part of the reason why I'm asking why, is that with the RetroBit Generations console here, what you have here is that there are cases where the emulation was off. Now, when the emulation is off, like you saw Mercs there, which we were just showing, what it was is Mercs runs jerky. So, like Battle Squadrons, which is in there, runs slow also. But the question I would have you here is that I know another complaint, I believe it's Super R-Type that's in it, ends up being running faster than the SNES version. Is that important? Also, does the sound have to be exactly the same? We have the case of the AtGames consoles, for example. The AtGames console ends up being a problem because what you have with the AtGames console is that everything just runs. The sound's off on the Genesis stuff. They've gotten better with the later versions, but still the sound would be off for anything else. Or if you have a case here of like with the RetroBit Generation, some of them where it runs slow. That's an issue you're talking about. But beyond that, what about cases like, take a look at Gunsmoke here, for example, which is the NES version. And I should do a video on what's happening here, but what everything's running on. But, like, take a look at Bionic Commando, which was on there. When you have something else that's like a home version of a game, and it goes off in a different direction, is that okay? Is it okay if they do a remix at a speed? How important is purity? That is the main question I'd like to ask you. How important is purity in regards to doing this emulation stuff? Or is it okay that we have stuff that is maybe different? So long as it's playable. Now, I understand some off emulation. As I said, some of the off emulations are like this when the sound's off, typically what happens with the AtGames Genesis one. That's an issue. But if you have like Super R-Type and it runs faster, is that a problem? Anyhow, feel free to share some comments below. I just figured I'd ask you with this. This is also an experiment of what I'm doing here with the screen capture and trying to use motion. So anyhow, and I figure we're discussing it. That's what it would be. And just a few other things I want to share about the RetroBit Generations is that the SD card that you put in for storage is optional. You don't need it as internal storage. And yeah, there was other things too. You're talking about emulation where it does this, like Varth on this. They turned it 90 degrees. They couldn't fix it. So anyhow, so there's been some mixed bag in the Genesis emulation has been kind of off. So anyhow, that's it. I know like Forgotten Worlds, for example, somebody was excited to have the arcade version. But the controls are kind of just... They're adapting a paddle controller, what was an original Forgotten Worlds, into trying to use the controller. And if you had the Genesis one, which would work, which would have been great if it worked, that would be useful because they had the controller configuration set up. Problem with the Genesis one is that it ended up requiring a second controller. That was the issue. It required, you had to use, with Forgotten Worlds, you couldn't use a 6-button controller or it would automatically stop. So anyhow, let me drop out of here, and that's about it. hopefully this will go okay. As I said, I might do this in the future just to show something else here, apparently, see if I get more views regarding it. But this is what discussing. Feel free to share some comments below. Myself, I'm generally happy with it. I haven't had a chance to play with much. I'm doing some other stuff, but anyhow, that's pretty much the latest that I would have to share. So feel free to post some comments below. So I'm out of here. So on that note, I just said to close. I do want to thank you for watching, listening. May your die always roll 5, and remember, don't hate the player. Change the game. Thank you. Good night.